All right, welcome back. And we are now on part 3 of drawing our image onto our window. And we just finished up creating our texture file. As you can see, it's right here. And we are now on to the final step, which is updating our main. So pretty much what we'll be doing today is we're going to create a couple new shader files. It's going to be sprite.vs and sprite.fs. And currently our shader program is not able to handle images, so we need to be able to input some source recs so that we can access image points. And I'll show you exactly how that's set up and how that works. It was a pretty poor explanation, but it's I think a bit easier to explain as I'm typing it out versus just kind of talking over it right now. So I'm going to open up Notepad here, and we're going to create our shader files on that, just because in the last episode I used just the Visual Studio's creation tool for that, and it's kind of a pain to use, so I think I'm going to go stick to the old-fashioned Notepad. I wonder if I can increase the text. I can. So just like our other one, we need to, in fact, let's actually just go to our other one and just copy and paste what we had previously. So that's right, I made that uniform bool, and that's not going to be used. It doesn't really matter that we put that in there. It should compile either way. But let's copy and paste that. So this is going to be our VS or sprite.vs file. And inside of our sprite.vs, we're going to have another layout. So we're going to be inputting more data. And this layout is going to be at location 1. And it's going to be an input. It's going to be vec2. And this is going to pass through our image coordinates. So these, we're going to call these coords. It's not saved quite yet. And we pretty much are going to be passing through the same thing that we had before. So the GL position equals vec4, yada, yada, yada. It's going to stay the same. The only thing difference now is we're going to have an out coords. So let's go ahead and also define that. So we're going to have an output. That's going to be vec2. And this pretty much just passes on data through the pipeline. So this would go to our geometry shader, but there is no geometry shader, so it'll be passed on even further down the line to our fragment shader. And our fragment shader is going to be the one who are going to be using, it's going to have an input of our image. It's going to have a uniform for that. And then it's going to use these text coords to create an object in order to render from that object to our window. So we're going to open up our image. We're going to signify some coordinates, like a square of that image, and we're going to load that onto our render window. So let's go ahead and define this as text coords. So that's how I defined it in my file. And then we're also going to, we're going to have to pass our coords over to our text coords. So let's go ahead and do that. Text coords is equal to coords. There we go. Now we can actually just save this here. So this is already in the right place. So let's call this, let's go to all files, and texture.h is still in our shaders folder. Interesting. We'll probably have to delete that. Our file name is going to be sprite.vs. That's going to handle that. And we can just go ahead and just edit this and then do a save as to change what this is going to be saved as. But just like our triangle.fs, let's go ahead and copy this because a lot of it is going to stay the same here. Well, not a lot of it, but most of it will. At least the out color will stay the same. But we're going to have to add in a new in, so we're going to be inputting those text coords that we created in our Vertex shader. So let's go ahead and line those up. So text coords in vec2. And then instead of doing our color like this, there's a nifty little function here called texture. And texture takes in an image, or the image like text unit. So where are we rendering our binding our texture to? So if you remember in the last episode, when we call that bind function, go to texture. When we call that bind function, it binds it to, it first activates a text unit. So that's going to be text unit 0, and then it binds that texture to that text unit. So for our shader, what we're going to be doing is we're going to pass through the text unit, which has our active texture on it. So it's going to be image, and we're going to have to define that as a uniform. So uniform, and it's called a sampler 2D for some reason. I don't know exactly what that is, but you can just pass through an integer to get that. And so I assume it functions very similarly to an integer. It's just defined as a sampler 2D. And we're going to call that image. So we're going to pass through our text unit into the first slot, or the first parameter of our texture function. And then we're going to be drawing that image using the text coordinates also found here. So go ahead and do that thusly. And what this will do is it'll go pixel by pixel from our coordinates, and then it's going to rasterize the pixels based off of what it finds using the source coordinates for our image. And I accidentally saved this, didn't I? I did. Well, luckily, we can fix that pretty easily. Let me go add these two here. So I can just copy and paste what I did previously, so we don't have to retype that, because I messed up save as here. And I should probably hide my camera too, so that you can actually see. And as you can see, this is the same layout for our sprite. Everything is all taken care of there. And let's go ahead and go into our main function and start. Well, let's first compile our shaders to see if they compile correctly. So sprite.vs and sprite.fs, see if these compile. And it looks like they do. I mean, of course, nothing is showing because we don't actually have an image correctly bound to the correct slot. So that makes sense that wouldn't work, or not that. We're not passing through any source coordinates, which we will have to find in our vertices. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste this vertice setup, and then we'll kind of explain what each point is. So as I said before, we're going to be loading in a square, so it's going to have a first coordinate, or first, it's going to have position and coordinates. It's going to be loading in like this. So this is going to start off in just a little bit, like a little bit in of, it's not going to be, the image is not going to be taking up the full screen, but it's going to be taking up a portion of it. So we're going to be starting at 0.5 f in negatives for position. So this is going to be the top. What is that? That is this is the bottom. This is the bottom triangle. It's going to be a bottom right triangle. Let me actually just pull up paint, and then I can actually just draw what we're doing here. So this is going to be the first triangle. We're going to draw that out, and then we're going to draw the second triangle, and that is going to complete our square. And then coordinates are going to be in a similar vein, but instead of grabbing at half the screen, we're going to be grabbing the full image, and we're going to be using those coordinates there. All right, so now we have our vertices loaded in correctly. The next bit that we need to get accomplished, we will have to change our arrays. Oh, we're going to have to change our vertex attrib arrays too. So we're going to have to change our VAO to now account for our new variable. So we go to our shader, or was it sprite.vs. We now have a new attrib that we have to account for. So before we were just dealing with position, now we're dealing with position and coordinates. So to do that, we're going to have to create another attrib pointer for our VAO. So let's go ahead and define that here. If we can type correctly. And inside of that, it's going to start off at index 1. And it's going to be a two-step. So this is going to be our second, or this is this is going to be starting at position. This one starts off at location 0. This one is going to be at location 1. If you remember, that's where we set that up with sprite.vs. It's going to have a size of 2, so it's going to be 2 floats, and then a similar sort of lineup here for the rest of it. We can actually just copy and paste a lot of this, and then just change what is different. So the total size is actually changed for both of these, so it's going to be 4 times the size of GL float for the total size. These are going to be exactly the same. And then this is going to be starting at a different position, so we're going to have to change that. This no longer starts at 0. This starts at 2 times the size of float. So go ahead, define that. GL float. And then this is a bit long, so we might as well move this down to a new line here. So we got our attrib pointer all figured out, so we just have to copy and paste this here, and we're going to have to enable it on location 1. So go ahead and do that like such. And then I think that's it. The only thing we have to change now is this now goes from 3 to 6, as we have 6 different points to take care of now that we have two triangles that we want to be rendering towards. But we have a lot more floats to be managing. So the coordinates are not going to be accounted for in this number right here. This is just solely for points rendered to the screen. And let's go ahead and run it and see if our little guy appears on the screen, and he does. So there you have it. Now we have something rendered to the screen. We can actually interact with it. Let me just go ahead and clean up a few things in our project file. Those are all the recordings that I've done so far. Go to source, repos, and game engine. And let's go ahead and delete whatever texture.h is doing here. I don't think this is necessary. We'll find out very shortly. Yeah, no, it's fine. Okay. So, I mean, as you can see, our sprite doesn't really scale with the screen. If you looked at my example before, mine does, and we will be learning a bit more about how to do that. How so we can also normalize a lot of the window space, so we're not dealing with half coordinates and such like that. We can actually just deal with regular pixels. We're going to learn about that as well. Let me go ahead and delete all of that. And this is going to be me signing off for the 3rd episode for uploading an image to our window. thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the series as much as I enjoy making these videos. It means a lot for you to like, subscribe, and I mean, even just viewing these videos, it means a lot to me. Yep, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.